Pokemon, Kaiju, Dragon Ball, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello there, collector. Steven here, and I'm bringing you another Mezco review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mezco Kong of Skull Island figure, but it's going to be a repaint, and it's going to be a previews exclusive monochrome version. So this black and white repaint of the original Mezco Kong release actually does bring some new stuff to the table. Most specifically, a new paint scheme. And some accessories the original release didn't have. Some of them can be used with the original release, some of them can't. So considering that this is a repaint with some brand new features, will this be worth the double dip? Well, let's take a look to see whether or not Kong here is worth adding into your collection. This review is September 2019 Patron's Pick. That's right, the folks on over at my Patreon have a vote every month to see which figure they'd like to see me review, and this one was chosen. So, thank you so much for everyone who took part in September's poll. So if you're interested in October or any one of them moving forward, head on over to my Patreon now with a card popping up in the top right hand corner of your screen, or any of the links in the description down below so you can take part. Alright, let's continue on with the review. The sculpt from the original release of Kong, which was fantastic, is carried over relatively well in this release as well. So there are no issues in terms of sculpt. Kong's fur looks great. We do have some slash marks on the chest, which are pretty dang cool. It is a nice looking figure. Where this figure does have a little bit of a difference, though, is going to be in the paint department. And here's where they have a little bit of an issue that I'm going to touch on in articulation as well. Even though for the main body it is a nice matte color, Kong is pretty consistent with a nice black color used for the plastic, some grays and blues used to bring out some of the features of Kong. It seems like the paint or the finish, the top coat, whatever it was to seal the figure, it may have gotten in the joints and gotten them stuck, making them real difficult to move, which that's, again, more so for articulation. But what is a slight issue here is that some of the hands and the feet are glossy compared to the rest of the body, which is of a matte color. Yeah, not too great there, guys. It's a little oversight that kind of could have been avoided, I feel. Another small critique is that when you take a look at the joints on the figure, which are exposed in some key spots, it almost looks like they didn't bother to keep the coherent paint scheme continuing. So you'll notice that there is a little bit of a paint spray on one of the elbow hinges, but it just kind of stops. It's almost like you know it was there, just keep going with it. That being said, that issue is rather minor. Why? Because it really isn't that big of an issue. I'm just pointing it out. Overall, Kong here does look nice, and this unique head sculpt to this specific repaint of Kong is very cool. One problem, it's in black and white, so we can't use it with the original Kong. So, yeah. But anyway, Kong's looking good. Talking about articulation. All right, so Kong is going to move basically the same way as the first release did, because this is just going to be a repaint. There is a unique issue with this one, though, that the first one kind of sort of had, depending on who you talk to, but this one, oh yeah, it's got. So for some reason, they did use what appears to be a different type of finish on some parts of this Kong, at least as sort of maybe a top coat of some kind. You can see gloss on his hands a little bit, on his feet too. For whatever reason, this Kong's joints are really, really stiff. So if you are having issues with that, I highly advise you to take a blow dryer to this one or use hot water to really heat it up to make sure that you're not going to be breaking anything. Because even still, some of the joints, you can kind of see they're wiggly a little bit. Yeah, not necessarily 100% stable, but I got them to move in a decent way now. And if you need help, I got videos to help you out with that. So, how does Kong move? Just as a refresher, well, the head attaches on a ball joint, and that is a barbell style. So, the head, in and of itself, is on a ball joint, so we can move Kong's head around. And then that joint in the neck is on a ball joint, so Kong can look around in some pretty good directions. Hinge on the shoulder, you can see I'm putting in some effort there. This was one of the many stuck joints. And swivels. elbow hinge, and swivel. And we have ball jointed wrists. Yay. Now, for the ab crunch that Kong has, we're kind of moving through this, it was very much so stuck, but I feel like the range is significantly better here than it was on my vanilla version of this figure. I did get that one to loosen up a bit more, but here it even seems to be a bit better in terms of moving in all different directions. So yes, very fun ball joint for the ab crunch. For the hips, which were basically frozen solid out of the box, we do have ball joints, so this way Kong can move his legs forward about that far, back about that far, to the side about that far before they may pop off or they may break. For the knees, we have hinges, which again were stuck as well. I still feel like they're going to tear, and they do have slight swiveling motion as well, along with ball jointed ankles. So all in all, Kong's range of movement is somewhat limited due to just simply the design and the engineering, but just be careful with those tight joints. But once you get those fixed up, Kong is pretty expressive. Time to talk about accessories, and what do we get here? For this release of Kong, we do have the stuff that came with the original release, where we are going to have alternate hand parts, which include fists and splayed hands. We are also going to get one extra right hand, so this way Kong can hold some accessories. Kong is also going to come with a small Andaro and some shackles. Exclusive to this release is going to be a Kong skull, a big old bone, probably a femur, and then, even though I showed it to you because it's the default head sculpt out of the box, Kong does come with an alternate roaring head, but the default growling head, that is exclusive to this release, meaning this one doesn't have a neutral head sculpt, and the other one doesn't have an in-between fine and really angry head sculpt. There's no pissed head sculpt, so to speak. All right, let's take a look at what we have. So, like I made mention, we do have the Andaro figure, and it's going to be basically the same as the original, except repainted. That face does not look good, though. Those eyes are pretty scary. They should have just painted over them and not even bothered to attempt to give her pupils. But I don't know how many folks are really going to be using this one. The shackles are pretty much going to look the same compared to the original release. Not much to go over here, and I don't really know how they could have monochromed these out. So Kong does also come with an exclusive King Kong species skull, and it is pretty cool looking. Don't quite know what you're going to be using this for, aside from maybe having Kong hold this skull and contemplate his existence, or just have it as a prop somewhere on your shelf, which is all fine and dandy, but okay. And then Kong also does come with that giant bone, so this way he can beat another kaiju to a pulp with it, should he so choose, which is a great accessory, and you can probably finagle it into the hand of the normal Kong. But the only issue is that they didn't really seal this too well, and you can scrape off the paint. So once you get it into his hand, if you throw out the packaging, I suggest keeping that hand just attached to this bone. So all in all, this Kong's accessories, absolutely worth the price tag. This is a nice package here, and we basically get everything that you could ask for this specific release, except for a neutral head sculpt. Likewise, we should have gotten other accessories with the base Kong in this release, because the price point's going to be about the same, but this one comes with more. Don't understand why they couldn't just put in a growling head sculpt that could be compatible with the original release, because the bone stuff, you can use that with the first as well, but come on, another head sculpt. Let's get some interchangeability here. Anyway, if you feel you may need some more effect parts to go with your Kong, or even a stand, you know I got videos to help you out on that. Now we're going to go ahead and round out the review here with a size comparison with some other figures you just might have on the shelf, just in case you're confused as to how big this Kong is going to be. And do keep in mind, this is one beefy figure. The last portion of this review is going to be pretty straightforward and to the point. A quick side-by-side comparison with the normal colored King Kong released by Mezco. Yep, same thing but in black and white. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a good old deal. Overall, this is a rather rock-solid release, and if I had to pick one over the other, you just take one home with you. I'm gonna have to go with this one, the Previews exclusive, over the standard. Why? You just simply get more accessories, and I feel the head sculpts are a bit more expressive, where once again I do feel Mezco dropped the ball. There should have been more interchangeability between these two releases, despite the fact that the repaints are completely different colors. They could have just simply added in extra accessories. Also, something else I really do feel that they dropped the ball on are the tight joints. That's not something that we should have for this release, because there are a lot of folks who were worried they were going to break them. Some actually did. But for about 40 bucks, pretty good deal. Well, collectors, that brings us to the end of the video today, and I just wanted to take a second to thank you so much for watching. Now you've heard a lot from me, I'd like to hear a little bit from you. Drop in the comments down below whether or not you liked it, you hated it, or maybe you were somewhere in between. I also want to take an extra second here for a nice, humongous thank you to all the patrons for SDR over the last month who have really helped the channel grow into what it can be today. So to all of you, 2 big thumbs up. Thank you very much. And now the end card should be popping up, which will give you a few clickable links, like maybe to subscribe or head on over to my Patreon, or some short URLs like to my social media or to my Teespring store. There's also a video I hand-selected for you, so if you want to watch another SDR video, I hand-selected some good content for you to watch, so definitely check out that video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.